Hey y'all, it's an architect. Sorry I've been gone for so long. I had intended on finishing out at least one of these 8 essays that I've been working on, and then to give you guys a well made video essay. But today I'm just going to kind of go off the cuff because I think that what I have to say can't really wait. Things are really heating up here in the US, and things are looking spicy, and the future is looking really rocky. And I think we all know it. Probably don't need to explain the reasons for that, but part of that is that we are looking uh, towards actual scarcity that we haven't had for quite some time. So, something I want to talk to you about is talking to your neighbors. Now, I know that sounds terrifying and frightening. I have social anxiety. I also have autism. So talking to strangers is terrifying. But, dying due to lack of resources is also terrifying. And so I just at some point have to force myself to do it. I'm not telling you that you need to reveal your political ideology or to start radicalizing people right off the bat. I'm just saying to get to know who your neighbors are. And there are several reasons for this. So, for one, you need to know who's cool and who's really not cool. You need to know who you need to look out for and who's going to be looking out for you and who you need to avoid at all costs. And another thing is that you are going to need to know which of your neighbors might be willing to share or pool resources, or maybe have access to certain resources that you can share as a community. Once you have an open dialogue, these people can either clue you in on things going down in the neighborhood, or you can clue them in on things going down in the neighborhood. And I'm going to tell you how I made these connections with my neighbors. When I first moved in here and the following months, I started introducing myself to my neighbors, and I didn't really reveal anything about myself. I did kind of convey to them that they can share anything with me, that they can open up with me, but I didn't really offer much up about myself. So what I said was, hey, I'm so and so, and I just moved in, or I've been meaning to say hi and introduce myself. I'm over here in this unit, and I know that we share a wall. Sometimes I like to play my music kind of loud. And so I just want to give you my number because if there's ever a noise complaint, just give me a text and I'll just turn it right down immediately. And honestly, that has actually saved me from a couple of police visits because what I have learned since then is that I do have neighbors that have babies under the age of 1. And of course, nap time is a thing. And so I have gotten a couple of text messages saying, like, hey, I just put the baby down for a nap. Can you turn down the music? And I was like, yes, absolutely. Thank you for letting me know. I also had, another neighbor upstairs who I have had this like strange leak coming through my roof, and I texted him and said, hey man, there's water coming through my ceiling. What's going on? Is everything okay up there? He was not aware that there was flooding going on up there, but he immediately fixed it. Also, there was a time when my neighbor texted me and called me and was knocking on my door saying that my friend's car was about to be towed. And so I was very grateful that they knew who I was enough to feel comfortable enough to knock on my door, to text me, to let me know that this urgent situation was going on. These are low risk reasons for neighbors to have access to being able to contact you when they need it. You're going to avoid police at your door. You're going to know whenever there's some kind of a weird crisis going on. But the other thing is that now I have an open dialogue with them, and they have started sharing things about themselves with me that is very important. So I have a neighbor who offered up, without me even asking, offered up that they are interested in growing food, that they grow food on their balcony. As some of you know, the org that I work with, our big primary project is food sovereignty. And so I was able to connect with that neighbor on that level and found out that we're pretty well politically aligned. And I was able to get that information without revealing much about myself. I was also able to find out which one of my neighbors is just a straight up bigot and the person that really I need to be avoiding at all costs. The other thing is that with these aligned neighbors, having my information to be able to text me. In the coming months, I think we're seeing a lot of raids happening in certain neighborhoods, especially low income neighborhoods. And I think it's pretty important that if something like that were to go down, that either my aligned neighbors could contact me to let me know or ask me, hey, what's going on? There's this black van outside and there's all these people knocking on doors, or I can let my neighbor know, if there are any neighbors that I'm particularly concerned about their safety. If you just demonstrate a willingness to listen, people will tell you the craziest things. And so, with that open dialogue, something that I've been doing recently, whenever I see my neighbors out, the ones that I'm on good terms with, speaking terms with, not the bigot, but again, not revealing anything about myself, but telling them, I've been seeing this stuff in the news about like, there's going to be some kind of like shortages or something. Do you think that like we should be like stocking up and preparing for this or something? Or you think it'll just like blow over? Because this is a way to like kind of feel out like who is taking this seriously and who may have resources that they'd be willing to share, or again, access to certain resources. These are just some ways to really open up the dialogue and get people talking to you without necessarily putting yourself at risk, without necessarily revealing any of your identities. But also, it kind of opens up the door for in the future, if you do want to organize and coordinate with them or try to radicalize them, that really opens up the discussion for like who might be open for that kind of discussion and who might not, and who might already be on board. You never know. Because I know that there's one neighbor for sure that I will never discuss any of that with. And I have another neighbor that might be very open to hearing about that sort of thing. Now, if at that point you're feeling exceptionally bold and brave, then yes, I would absolutely encourage people to start creating community events, block parties, complex parties. It can be very low key, whatever, potluck, something. This regime is going to be depending on our isolation. They're going to be depending on our brainwashed, rugged individualist mindset where everyone is afraid of their neighbor. No one wants to collaborate or coordinate with their neighbors because they're all too afraid to speak to them. And in the future, once you have a better idea of who might be open and who might not be open, you can move on to having those more intense discussions. So a lot of neighborhoods, they have this neighborhood watch program where, of course, for them, it's like, we're going to look out and see if there are any brown people walking around and then call the cops. But if you form your own community watch with your aligned neighbors, they're not going to be looking out for brown people. They're going to be looking out for the boys in blue. Or I suppose with the militarized police force at this point, they're probably wearing all black and a balaclava and unmarked vehicles. But you get the idea. In essence, in order to ride out this coming wave, we're going to have to talk to our neighbors. We're going to have to get to know them, at least on some kind of a surface level. And I understand if you feel that speaking to your neighbors is terrifying and frightening, but the alternative is even more terrifying and frightening. And so we're just going to have to do it afraid. I'm not telling you that you need to get over your fear. I'm telling you, you're going to have to do it afraid. If we're going to survive this, we are going to have to do things that are scary. We're going to have to do things that are uncomfortable. We're going to have to do things that we don't like. We're going to have to do things that are hard, things that we never should have had to do in our entire lifetime. But unfortunately, we do. That's about it for today. Everybody stay safe, buckle down, keep your friends and loved ones close, and let's get through this together. Bye, y'all.